Everyone, thanks very much for coming. I'm just going to hand over to Ian Smythe, who's involved in this phenomenal facility that Kate has provided for us this evening. It's not going very quickly for this event. Obviously, it's one of those things with COVID that we can only bring so many people together, but we're really lucky to be in such an amazing space.
Thanks very much, Ian. Yeah, welcome to our new facility here at our Pimlico campus. These types of events are probably not what Tape has been known for in the past, but I hope increasingly it's what we get known for in the future. Just some housekeeping. The bathrooms are just down the wall, right down on the right. Would ask that you follow the standard protocol around COVID-19 just in terms of distancing. It is always awkward when a photo gets posted and it does look like we're sitting too close together, so I'll just remind you about that, even though it is often difficult to hold a conversation for 1.5 minutes. There's plenty of hand sanitizer. If you haven't checked in using QR code, you can do that as well. This does make it a little bit easier. You can check out at the end where you've got to do both, even though some of those apps do check around automatically. This is nearly the completion stage. Our new renovations next door are not open yet, but inside there, while it's just staff accommodation, there's also a whole range of wonderful creative meeting spaces. So the whole concept of bringing people together to listen to presentations and talk about things is very much being embraced here. And it's a great opportunity for us to host it. In the event that we do have a fire alarm that is in existence, as one of the times, it's just out through the back door. And I will do my best to be your firewall. We'll collect over there until the fire brigade come and turn off the alarm system. But once again, to the Smart Precinct, thank you very much for using our venue. And if anyone does want to bring similar type of events, yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So thank you for welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm actually quite lucky Ian is a member of our Smart Precinct volunteer board, which is obviously fantastic for us. Smart Precinct is a not-for-profit that's been created specifically to support and attract high-growth businesses that are based in North Queensland. This is going to be done effectively through a network. Both of our members, including JCU and all the councils of the North Queensland Rock, players like TAFE, but also people like yourselves that are involved in entrepreneurship, either supporting it, like the Australian School of Entrepreneurship that we have in attendance, that is running a program with over 100 youth in Townsville at the moment, and many others that are involved in it. So we certainly see ourselves more broadly as a collective of people committed to supporting entrepreneurship in North Queensland. Now, this event is being sponsored by Oz Industry. Thank you, Renee. We'll hear from Renee later. And we're really lucky that there are people being able to dial in online through Zoom. Thank you to JCU, Rochelle and Keith for arranging all of that. There's a fantastic interview with Keith and the wonderful Nicole that is, I think, live on our website, which you'll be able to dial into later.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. The live stream can't see you. I'm sorry. You need to stay on this side of the PowerPoint.
Thank you, wonderful Hannah. Hi, everybody. Got a great place to read it. Now, we now then will get to hear from Blake. Blake Pelling has been in Townsville for a long time. He had a background in multiple businesses and industries. He's had a go at sort of smaller business. Obviously, we've got a very special tag that I don't think we can call SafetyCulture a small business anymore. Blake was one of the original team members of SafetyCulture. So it was at the kitchen table as this was being developed, has been hands-on in the growth of SafetyCulture, and continues to be involved specifically in the new product development and innovation in terms of bringing now a much bigger set of tools and resources to bear on their customers' problems. It is a real privilege for us in North Queensland to have somebody that is both dedicated to staying in the city, but has had this experience to be able to share with us. And I'm sure Blake's story will inspire all of us
whether they're currently interested in being entrepreneurs. I know what you're thinking, and you are right. Skinny jeans, I'm realizing is pretty sketchy look, but we get too judgy. I'm in the tech business. It's the uniform, right? This is the tech uniform. And the reason you can tell I'm not a CEO or a founder is I'm not wearing a baseball cap, because that's how they would show up. And you can tell I'm not a billionaire because if I was, I'd be wearing a hoodie. And you know, I like to imagine that Elon Musk, if he gets that sort of, there's levels to this game. Elon Musk, you turn up your board meeting in just a nasty old silk bathrobe with Chinese food stains on and a pair of Nike sliders, but sadly you just got the skinny jeans version. So I hope we can make this worth your while. Now, I've been lucky enough to be part of the SafetyCulture journey from before its conception to where it is today, and so I've got a lot of stories from the Western Front, so to speak, to share with you. So what I want to do at the time we've got together is just to take you for a walk through that, and particularly we'll pay a lot of attention to the early stages, the garage days, and then walk through to where we are today as a billion-dollar company, or a unicorn as they call it. What you're going to see is what I hope to do for you is to just peel away any mystery, peel away any deceit. I just want you to realise that this is just a bunch of real people who failed their way to success, and that's solving problems day after day, just new problems, and you fail a lot of them, and then you solve some well enough that you graduate to bigger problems, rinse and repeat, and that's all this is. That's all the game is. It's solving problems. Actually, that's everything that sounds is just blah, 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 solving problems. So if you want to make your own conceptions, you just take it on with you and you're good. Now, if by the end of this you find yourselves thinking, I bet this is not the last unicorn that Townsville produces, then it's been time well spent together. I think this should move when I press the button. Stand by. There we go. Does anybody still know what a unicorn is? Has there a unicorn? Is there any confusion around that? Unicorns are a billion-dollar business. And what does a billion-dollar business mean? And this is Luke, by the way. This is the founder. We'll see more of him as the story unfolds. What does a billion-dollar business mean? Anybody confused by that? So does it mean there's $1 billion in the vault at the back of SafetyCulture headquarters? No. Does it mean there's billionaires yet? No. What it means is that the last time SafetyCulture went to the private equity market to raise capital to accelerate our development, that the price paid by sophisticated investors was such that the share price of SafetyCulture, when multiplied by the total number of shares, adds up to over $1 billion. And that's where we are today. We've raised about 200 million in cash to this point, and so that's how much cash we've had come in through private equity investment. But just in case anybody was unsure what unicorn means, that's what it is. This is Luke, as I said. He's the founder. We'll learn a bit more about him as we go. But as we go through this story, a bunch of anecdotes, we'll blow through this very quickly. And of course, we can't tell the whole thing and do the whole thing justice. But this is a pretty useful framework for you to map onto some of the most important themes, some of the most sort of foundational themes that had to be true in order for this to be a success. So without any of these things, like you take any of these, one of these off the list, and there was no SafetyCulture as a unicorn, right? So on the way through, when we talk about a problem worth solving, I'm talking about what you actually do for your customers. Does it solve it well enough and at a scale enough that is worthy of your effort? Talent is who comes along on the ride to help you build this thing. Traction is what it's all about. Without traction, you've got nothing. Your ideas are worth exactly zero without traction. And so we'll talk about what that means. You need cash. You need the fund to fuel the rocket ship, but the asterisk means you need smart, connected cash. So you've got to be careful who you get into bed with because some gorillas really want their back scratched, sort of thing. So you want smart cash that brings more than just money, and you want mentors. We'll talk a little bit about that. All right, let's jump on the time machine. Let's go back to 2004. 2004, Luke and I were friends, right, prior to going into business together. He was a private investigator. I'd previously been a scuba dive instructor, among other things. And in both those pursuits, we discovered photography. So we were kind of saw ourselves being photographers, right? So we started a photography business together on Ingham Road, 205 Ingham Road. And we were downstairs there, and this thing's called Insight Creative. It's still going today. The lovely Megan Morano around town owns and runs that. If you need photos taken, do call Megan. And about a week before we opened, Luke and I, we put $10,000 each into this thing. We both had kids and mouths to feed. A week before we opened, Luke says, "Oh, don't go salty, I don't want to invest this money, no." Okay, dickhead. And he said, "Yeah, I'm going to go and do that thing where that OHS thing I was talking about. And so I'm going to go do that." Okay, well, we went off and did the photography business. That worked well. Luke moved upstairs in the far end of the building because he put $10,000 in the photography business. I didn't have money to give back to him. We hadn't made any money yet. And so he climbs upstairs like a pigeon in the attic. He can't afford the internet. So I run, one of these blue cables up around the outside of the building, shoving through the ceiling in the window, and he gets his modem close enough that he can also have internet, and away he goes. So that was called Wade's Business Solutions at that point. And that was SafetyCulture. That was the birth of SafetyCulture right there. And so what he was actually selling at that point was documents, occupational health and safety documents. And the way he got this idea was his mum was the owner of a small cash-crop distributorship in town, Wales. And that's how that name came about. And so she complained one day. She said, "I just got audited, and I'm told that I need to have a drug and alcohol policy and site safety policy and all these things. Where am I going to get these?" And it's like, "I don't know. We'll just, surely the one you need is no different from the one some other business needs, so we'll just buy one and know that." Apparently not. You need to pay a consultant to create one of these things for you. It costs you over $1,000. So Luke thinks this is the problem worth solving. So he gets one written for his mum and thinks, "I'll just change the details of this, we'll be able to sell it." He makes a business out of occupational health and safety templates. He's getting these things printed at Officeworks, ring bound upstairs in the, like a pigeon in the attic, making these things, and getting a salesperson to go door to door and sell them. And away he went. So this went on for a couple of years where in order to reach a bigger market, you got a call centre in Brisbane, and so they're selling at one end of the yellow pages and A to Z and booking up appointments to salespeople, salespeople on door to door selling these documents, and regularly these salesmen their sales would start to drop, and sure enough, they were actually like selling under their own banner and lining their own pockets, and basically stealing from the company. It was happening sort of time and time again. Poor old Luke found himself in these cease and desist situations, and so there was always kind of difficult situations that kept on arising, kept having to find a way around it. And so this is at a time when e-commerce was starting to become more acceptable to people, and so he created an online shop. And just this is the name, there's word on it. So businesses could buy them, they'd download them, and they'd have this kind of thing, like a safe work method statement that shows you, that gives your workers a way to sign off to say, yes, I understand how to do a thing. And a couple of really important things here. So this went for about 8 years. This gave Luke deep domain knowledge into a specific subject, and soaking in that and having that as part of his DNA is what really started to unlock the visibility on possibilities for what was to become SafetyCulture and iAuditor. Now, these things can drive pretty good behaviour, but mostly they're quite commonly used just for arse covering. And there was a situation just before I came on and joined the company. There was a situation where, the insulation bats subsidised by the government a bunch of years back, and some poor kid, while installing these things, got electrocuted, and that kid's boss tabled the document in court. So yeah, we did the right thing. You can see the signature here. He forged the signature, and our records show that he bought that document 2 days after this poor kid had died. So we weren't really part of the solution here. We're just part of helping businesses ease the burden of compliance, so to speak. So this is about when I came on. We thought there's some bigger opportunities here, and we looked at what is universal across all of this. What kind of cuts through this? What is limited by jurisdiction on the kind of documents we can sell within Queensland in construction? What is universal to this? And not just in Australia, but elsewhere. And we can start to see smartphones showing up in everyone's pockets, and this is 2011 at this point. And we looked at the checklists. So aviation industry pioneered this stuff. A simple checklist. If your mum's getting onto one of these planes, you want to be sure that someone has asked the question: is the tire pressure right? Is there fuel in this thing? All things we need to be good to go. Turns out that checklist is a universal tool that is great, not just for safety, but for quality, and used by companies all over the world. So we thought, you beauty, let's build a checklist app. So we built iAuditor, and the rest is history. If only it were that easy. We actually failed at a bunch of shit before doing that. Before we built iAuditor, we built iJSA. And JSA is Job Safety Analysis, and it was 2012, everything had I on the front of it, don't judge us. Who knew that was going to date, right? But, so we built iJSA. It was actually pretty good. If you wanted to use our JSA form in exactly that way, it was perfect. If you wanted to make any variations on that, it was shit. What we learned from that, we rolled into iAuditor. We saw that people wanted to have a form. They wanted to perform these kind of tasks, but they wanted to do it their way. And that learning is what really made this thing click and then take off. But we also failed at a bunch of other shit before that. GoSafety.net was an attempt to be the Getty Images of safety documents, because we don't have to write them all. There's writers all over the world. We'll make a two-sided marketplace, and they'll list their documents there, and we'll click the ticket on the way through. Woo! Tumbleweeds blew through it. It was shit. And 20 grand spent on that thing, went nowhere. OHS Pro was an attempt to give people just a website to manage all their safety documents. It kind of made some money. It was a bit shit. Online inductions before that, again, just an abject failure. So what's going on behind the scenes at this point? There's Luke. This is his garage in Mount Lowe. He's on the other side of town there. And we'd graduated from the kitchen table out to the garage. And what we're looking at here is the chap looking sideways at Luke is Alan, our first engineer. So he was a uni dropout. He, for whatever reason, just didn't fit there. He was a super smart kid. He was borderline genius, if you ask me. But he was working as the IT guy at the correctional centre. And we asked Ian Atkinson from the uni, can you introduce us to anyone that might be able to build an app for us? He said, this kid's pretty smart, give him a crack. Alan came out and said, can you write code? Yeah, I can write code. You got a job. And so he made iJSA for us, and he made the first iAuditor. He made his work is what really sort of set this thing in motion. The other chap next to him is still in Townsville, Tristan, one of the nicest, smartest young gentlemen you'll ever meet, and is still very active in the local DevNQ community, very generous with his wisdom, and he has a lot to share from his SafetyCulture experience. And you can see at this point we couldn't afford shoes, no one's wearing shoes. And I don't know if you can make it out on the screen up there, but this was, I took this photo, that's why you can't see the unit. I took the photo, it was a big occasion for us. We just lit up our analytics for the first time. We're like, oh, we can see everyone who's using the product at the same time. And there was 5 people in there. So we sat there all afternoon drinking beers. Oh, went to 6. And it was it's pretty exciting stuff. But iAuditor was alive. It was on the market. It was being used. It actually started to, we put it on the App Store, and it really started to take off with near zero marketing. I mean, I came on to be the marketing department, both for the document business and for the blossoming software business, and that's one of the hats I wore for a long time. But I've got to say, everything I did wasn't as effective as just dropping it on the App Store, which was a little bit of luck for us. That timing was very lucky, that it was still a bit of the Wild West on the App Store. But people started to use it. And the first time we really learned that actually people are depending on this thing was one Friday afternoon while we're kind of hanging out at the garage there doing beers, we're about to knock off, see you fellas. We get a phone call, and it's an overseas call from a regional airport in South America. And they're saying, the report is broken. I'm like, which report? The report coming out of IOTA. And so what they're telling us was they had their systems all in place where they were producing PDF reports from their inspections, and the report builder on a recent update was broken. Their airport was grounded. Nothing was moving. Shit. We'll be right back to you. And so when boys were on the tools all night, we ended up getting them back in there again, back to the right. That was when we realised we're actually onto something here. People depend on this in a pretty big way. There was also a lot of other stuff going on there as well. We didn't have an Android version, and so we only had an iOS version. 70 grand we needed to build an Android version if we got a third-party software developer to do it. Because we just couldn't find Android developers, we couldn't hire people to do it fast enough. We needed to move quickly now that we started to have traction. And so Luke had his house and was at the time already going through a fairly expensive divorce and the divorce settlement. He had to mortgage a fair bit of his future for that. The document business revenue was starting to tank a little bit. I just shelved business I was doing to come across and help because we thought we might be on something big here. I took a big pay cut to do it in the first place, but I could see what was going on the balance sheet. I said, it's all right, mate, don't pay me for a couple of months, we'll catch up down the line. And to be honest, I wasn't actually sure that it was all going to turn out all right, but we'd come this far. So we were doing it pretty tough. It was about that time, John Williams, a local, a guy who really sort of backed us, he brought the Oz Industry Advanced Australia grant. Sorry. That was you. Sorry, my apologies. I thought John put us in touch with you. No, okay, I got that wrong. My apologies. Anyway, Oz Industry. When our Keith Steele from Oz Industry first came out, look, he said, "Oh, I like what you're doing here. It doesn't look very innovative, and unless someone else is willing to pony up some cash here, I'm not sure we can help you, but we'll come back and have a chat about it." And you can add a bit more fidelity to that story. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, out at his garage, this sort of shenanigans was going on. You can see I'd just taken delivery of my new ride-on mower, so having mower races out the back. Poor old Alan you can tell what he's thinking here. He's like, whatever, you guys are paying me, I don't care. This is all going to be over soon anyway, I'll have a bit of fun. And yeah, so we had a lot of fun out there back in the garage days, and that's our Luke right there. There's your $1 billion boy, Townsville. That's the Luke I know. Just tucking the biggest opportunity he can find under his wing and just going for gold. But then we started to get more inquiries from more big customers who were starting to depend on it. We got a phone call from Coles, the supermarket, and they said, "Look, we've been using your product. It looks very good. We want to roll it out to every manager in I think it was 800 odd stores across Australia at the time. It's more now. We're not really sure about this software company from Townsville business. We want to fly up and take a look, just make sure you're a legitimate business, and then we'll get busy rolling it out." And we said, shit, stall them. And so we said, look, we'll get back to you about the business, about the visit, Coles, but we did what any self-respecting business would do at that point and took photos of ourselves with our big boy pants on and sent them a photo. I said, "No, it's fine." And so yeah, took this horrible stock photo, and you can tell Alan's thinking, just kill me. You are not paying me enough for this. And then at about that time, this traction that we were starting to get was getting the attention of some important players. And so what you can see here, this was a big day for us. This is in the garage. This important gentleman on the left, this David Bowie-esque looking chap, is Rick Baker from Blackbird Venture Capital, and this is Australia's sort of biggest venture capital, tech-specific venture capital firm. I think they now have something like $800 million under stewardship. But back then, this was quite early in their venture capital journey in Australia. He came up to do his due diligence on us and to talk about perhaps investing in us. And so we put in our best spread of sushi and Subway. Boys put some sleeves on. And we had a couple of other employees at this time. Jason here was from Cairns. He was down for the day. And luckily at that time, Rick actually agreed to invest in us. And another funny anecdote from this moment. So you can see the clocks across the top there. About 2 days before, Luke, not afraid to have a crack, he's like, oh, we've got to look like an international business, we'll put some clocks up. And we're like, yeah, that'll be, oh, you're serious. Right, so he goes and buys these clocks. And we didn't know a drill to drill them in. And so myself and Nadine here, we're like, oh, what are we going to do? We'll double-sided tape them. So we double-sided tape, stick them up. There's Tokyo and Carter. And so Rick spends the day with us and doing his due diligence. And he's sort of sitting with us one at a time, like, oh, yeah, and take me through these figures and talk me through this customer experience, whatever else. And as we're doing this, and we're chatting to each other on sort of, Google Hangouts at the time, chatting to each other, and Tristan looks over his shoulder and goes, oh no, we're losing Tokyo. And we're like, it's okay, I got it. I'm like, anybody want a drink? You want a drink? Rick, want a drink? Oh, yeah, there we go. No, okay, come on back. And we tried to play this game for a while, and eventually Tokyo smash, hit the ground, like, Tokyo's down. And Luke turns around and goes, oh, yeah. Rick says, one of your clocks has fallen down. Luke says, oh, that's never happened before. I'm like, no, it definitely hadn't. But we didn't tell Rick that story till years later. And yeah, he wasn't surprised to learn, and we just put him up that day. But by the time Blackbird was willing to put in $1 million, that also meant that it unlocked Oz Industry in taking a punt on us. And what Oz Industry did for us with that cash, and Blackbird giving us that opportunity to really go after this thing, is what really unlocked it. That backing us at that point, and pretty happy to say that the tax bill that we sort of pay every year after from here on in is more than rewarding the Australian taxpayers' faith at that point. But Oz Industry were there for us, and we would not be where we are without what you guys did for us. So thank you very much. So what did we do with money? We went and got an office, so Coles to come visit us, and we're in town now, still on Sturt Street there, and we started hiring some people. Here we are at Australia Day celebration, and we hired some folks, and we were fairly shit at that point. We just, anybody, oh, you can write code, can you? Oh, you got your own computer, even better, come on in, you got a job. And we expanded really quickly, and we had all sorts of growth pains, like productivity just tanked immediately, and we really didn't set people up well, we didn't onboard them well, we didn't set clear expectations for them. It was just a shit show. And, but we had to grow through that and mature through that. But then we found our feet and started growing, and IOTA usage was going up, the product was building out its feature set, things were going well, and we raised some more cash a little while further on. And this guy is Scott Farquhar from Atlassian. Who has heard? Right, some. So Atlassian are Australia's biggest tech success story. They're, fact check me on this if you've got your phone out, but I think they're worth about 40 billion market cap at the moment. US. Right, thanks. So 40 billion US, and most Aussies haven't heard of them. So that's the two of them there. They're sort of co-founders. They went to uni together, made software that other software developers use to make software, and they're currently 40 billion US. These guys still own more than half the company together between them. So these are some very wealthy and very successful individuals. Oh, Scott got wind of what we're doing through Blackbird and found $2 million down the back of his couch to invest in us, and came up and spent some time with us. And he's been, the quality of this guy's advice as an operator is just on a different level to the advice we get from venture capitalists. And like, everybody's got advice, and advice is free, but advice from operators is golden. Advice from people trying to give you money, less valuable. Right, so we started hiring more people, but now we're able to hire more high caliber folks as well. So this scorpion class in the middle here, Gillian Finlay, she was our Chief Operating Officer for a good 4 or 5 years. And so she came on to provide a bit of order and structure where we were quite chaotic and just bootstrapping it. And she was fantastic. She is just a ball breaker with just a savage sense of humor. She was so much fun to work with. And she's gone on now to be CEO of another company by the name of Vamp and is doing well. But this is on one of our many trips to San Francisco. We spent a lot of time over there because we thought that's where you needed to be, and we got an office there, but you don't need to be there. San Francisco is a circus. But we hired more people, and in these photos of all of the staff like this, twice, maybe once or twice a year, we'd gather everyone together for a week-long event called Ship It, and we'd have this 24-hour hackathon and get everyone together so all the different offices from around the world get to see each other face to face. And we were doing it in Townsville every time as the kind of the spiritual home, but we eventually outgrew Townsville, but we hired more people. We realized that we hadn't learned everything we needed to learn about scaling, and at each stage we got more cash. We'd have to grow into the ability to spend that and to spend it wisely, but grow you do. We raised some more cash, and we got some more people, and I don't know what this guy's problem is here, but he doesn't put his hands up for anybody. And more people. And so this was the final of these events we had in Townsville for a little while, but that was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And we continue to hire more high caliber people. This is our most recent COO. This chap was CEO of Menulog and presided over them in a period where they sort of saw monumental growth, and also as managing director of Groupon, which is a hugely successful company. And so to bring people of that sort of caliber to do the things that we can't, because Luke's still CEO of the company, but he's, first to admit, he's fairly shit at a lot of things, and managing people is one of them. And so to have someone of this kind of caliber come in now to join and really play at a world-class level is crucial. And we hired more people, and that was our last big Ship It event in windy Wellington last year. If you all this talk of funding, if you're at all interested, how much, when it went down, that's how it happened. Our first seed round in 2013, and then a couple of these times we nearly went tits up. Like we were nearly out of cash, and we were in some pretty precarious positions at times, and managed to make it to the next round of drinks and go again. Today, we're actually in pretty good shape, and we've got quite a war chest, and we're doing well. But those are kind of the figures, and like I said, to this point, we've raised about 200 million Australian. We have offices, Sydney, Townsville, Manila, Manchester, Kansas in the US. And remember we saw 5 people on the analytics there earlier on. Well, today it looks more like this. Anytime you sort of open up the analytics, this is a snapshot of activity around the world. And so people are now doing around about 600 million checks a year in iAuditor, asking, you know, what's working well, what's not, and what they should do about it. So where to now? Well, as Scott Farquhar once told us, he said, this is, one of our people said, oh, how did you know when you made it, Scott? And he said, made it. Don't you know what this is? This is the cake eating contest. You eat the most cake, the prize is more cake. And so, what more cake for us? Well, sensors is an area we're moving into. We've now developed our own temperature sensor, and we'll be moving into telematics and other things as well. So, you know, it's one thing to have this inspection app that has us, you know, bald apes poking at it to enter data, but in today's connected world, we can do better than that. We can do that, but also have, you know, connected devices sharing information with us. So, you know, an example of that is one customer that's using it is Marley Spoon, meal kit delivery service. So they installed sensors in their fridge, and within the first week of using it, compressor went down, saved them $100,000 worth of stock. And so these kind of opportunities are enormous. So there's a brave new area for us. Training, so this is a project I've been working closely on. So we still have a group of people here in Townsville, sort of in the R&D space. So we have the privilege of being able to, of all the tens of thousands of customers we work with at SafetyCulture, is to have conversations with these people, look for commonalities across industries, look for opportunities to put technology to work in the service of helping them be better at their jobs, helping them have higher safety and quality, and fake trading. And we spent a bit over 18 months building this training platform and have learned a lot doing that along the way. So with this, on that subject, with innovation, with having a crack at something, you always get something out of it. Even if it's just a lesson, you get something out of it. There is growth to be had just in having a really red hot crack at something. We're also expanding to deliver incidents and observations. So rather than just waiting for an inspection to take place, we want to arm everybody within a workforce, 100% of workers in a workforce, to be able to identify something that someone should know about, capture that, and get back on with their job. Insurance, actually, we're an insurer. We've done a JV with QBE Insurance, and this is the JV baby. And we started selling insurance policies because we can see, in a data-driven sense, we have a better understanding of a company's risk profile than traditional insurers do. We can see the kind of questions they're asking, the frequency they're asking those questions, the kind of the results they're getting, the increased engagement among their frontline workforce in asking high-quality questions at the right time. We can see what their management is, how the management's responding to that data. And so all of those things mean that if you are actually committed to safety and quality, you deserve to pay less for your insurance. And so QBE is joining us to deliver that, which is exciting. And we do have a bit of a war chest, so I think we're at a stage now where pretty soon you'll start to see us acquire other emerging companies that support the platform that we're trying to build and already have some traction. So we can't build everything here ourselves. At some point, we're gonna acquire other opportunities. So that was a lot of fire hose talking. We've got some questions here in a sec, but just to recap, those themes that we were talking about on the way through. So solving a problem at scale, the challenge is to aim high enough. Does the problem that you're setting out to solve, does it solve this in a way does it scale? Does it, the chances are that a problem we solve for the TAFE here, something that it might be mundane, but the chances are if it's universal enough, it's in the middle of the bell curve, it's exportable to other places. And those are the kind of problems we should be particularly interested in. You also have to be very focused about what you are and what you are not. And sometimes you have to say no to a lot of potentially exciting things, a lot of really good things, in order to say yes to a few great things, and you have to focus on that. With talent, you need to create a vision that actually gets the attention of talented people, like smart, skilled people, smart, skilled, hungry people. They want big challenges. So you have to actually create a compelling vision that makes them want to be involved. Traction. Like we said at the top end, our ideas are worth exactly zero. If I had $1 for every time someone said, "Oh, you're working in a technology business, I've got an idea for an app, and what's that worth?" And it's zero. And so actually getting someone to embrace your idea and wonder how they lived without it is, that's the minimum you need. Cash, we spoke about that, and, and mentors. Mentors, a lot of people think, oh, if I just get a mentor, they'll show me the way and then I'll start doing great stuff. It's the other way around. You start doing great things, you'll attract the attention of very interesting people who are interested in what you do and who want to help. And one thing we've observed with high quality mentors is they don't want anything for their advice. They actually want to help. They're very generous with their advice. People who've reached a certain level of success, they actually want to see other people succeed as well. What they want from you though is to actually act on their advice. So don't take their advice, ignore it, come back later and ask for more advice. Show them that you actually baked in what they shared with you, and they will want to help you. Leave you with this thought though. There is competition globally for skilled workers. We feel that competition in Townsville, definitely, but we're not suffering from a lack of skilled workers. We are suffering from a lack of people daring to think big enough. So I double dare you. Think big. Thank you very much.
Now's the time where we get to ask questions, so please have your questions ready. So that was really inspirational as well as entertaining. So there's a question from people online. So Louise has asked, as a business, how do you hold the tension between being fast, agile, and having a learn by doing approach with working to a considered business strategy and strategic plan? It was interesting you talked about the different roles, the sort of things you did. So if you could give us some advice.
We should have an easy answer to that because, from experience, we actually we butcher that regularly, but that also seems to be part of figuring it out. So when you look back at see Rochelle,
Everyone online, Rochelle, they sort of connected, leaving early for her.
Yeah, we butchered that fairly regularly along the way, but you look back at some mind maps that we drew on whiteboards in the real early days, and the overarching strategy has held true for a lot of it. So how we thought we were going to get there constantly changed. We realized we didn't have the skills to manage 50 people, and then once you get to 100 people, that's a whole different skill set to manage those, and we constantly sort of took skin off figuring that out. But the overarching strategy has held up through all of that. So, sorry, Louise, it's kind of a combination of both, and strategy is crucial. The rest of it, you're going to have to figure out as you go.
Great, thank you. So now for a change of pace. This is from an 11-year-old aspiring entrepreneur, Malachi. What do you love about your job?
Thanks, Malachi. I love the mix, for me personally, the mix of creativity and scientific method, like being able to dream up where some white space is and create a solution for it, but then be able to measure it in people's actual responses is just fantastic. And then to do that with a band of really capable people and all want to win is fantastic. So all of those things, that crucible of creating stuff and then floating it on open marketplace of ideas is wonderful. I love that.
Yeah, I think listening to you speak tonight, it really comes across as a sense of someone that's enjoying what they're doing, which is pretty special. Now, questions from the audience at TAFE. Michael.
I actually have two questions.
Well, we'll just wait for the mic to get up, Michael, because we've got a Zoom connection here, but it requires you to speak to the speaker first.
Good, great presentation. But like, first one was how can private enterprise, local government, and community collaborate better to nurture innovation in our city? Sometimes it feels it's a little bit of a clash. Occasionally, in other areas, it's actually working. But what can we do better together? Private enterprise, local government, and the community to nurture that innovation, but especially for us.
I'm not an expert in this area, I'll be perfectly honest with you, by the way, anyone involved in Smart Precinct NQ, which is attempting to do exactly this. Like, there's so much good intention, but so many kind of just conversations flying past each other and a lack of cohesion in these things. And so Support Precinct is definitely an attempt to actually pull those things together and really support ideas and opportunities. So I don't have a better answer than that right now. And I'm sort of learning this as well. We've just been head down in what we're doing in SafetyCulture. So I'm a little bit ignorant of exactly the kind of things we can do. But the more time I spend involved in Smart Precinct, the more time I realise there's a tremendous appetite for it and really does just need someone to pull those things together. And I really hope that Smart Precinct is that. Yes, me too.
That's probably a good time for us just to pause for a second to acknowledge the really generous funding that Townsville City Council has given into Kickstart Smart Precinct, as well as the State Department of Development and Innovation and Tourism. Michael, you had another question?
Yes, the other one. I like the map. Show the map. So next over to 5, and then you show the beautiful global map with all those blue circles. So for this question, I'm assuming you get a lot of good insight into all the different markets around the world. Once upon a time, it was you had to break into the US market to be successful. But more and more in the media, we're hearing that it's the Asian century, and this especially with some of the leaders in the US, it seems to be a bit of a demise, even though tech seems to still be the US powerhouse. To get the point, sorry, with that insight and that data, are there markets that we should be considering to chase or get more involved in both the market and maybe even investors?
Yeah, there definitely is, and it depends on what you're providing, right? So in a lot of third world countries, they're leaping straight past the internet by computer stage and just going straight to mobile. So there's all sorts of opportunities there, banking and just all the things they're doing on mobile devices. And so there's a lot of opportunity for mobile tech. But speaking to our own experience, we kind of our product in its earlier stages appealed to more compliance-driven markets, and it's now evolved into more of a so where it was kind of safety at first, we've morphed into providing more of help businesses manage their quality, and safety is a subset of that. So it's no longer necessarily compliance-driven, and we're now seeing that sort of expand into other markets. But the more obvious, Canada, England, US, Australia, those kind of markets that require people to do safety inspections early on was the easiest place for us to gain traction. But those barriers, those arbitrary barriers, are breaking down now as people are using the tool more and more just to be better at business.
Thank you very much. I'm continually inspired by what SafetyCulture does and achieves. Good luck into the future.
Thanks, man.
Well, over here, and I'll get you to just introduce yourself and a little bit about your organisation. So.
It's hard to provide from the Australian School of Entrepreneurship.
Good day, Taj. I can hear you perfectly anyway.
I'm loud. Okay, cool. All right. My name is Taj Pabari. I work for the Australian School of Entrepreneurship. So we teach kids in regional communities how to start their business. I'm curious. I actually love hearing that story. It's the first time I actually heard about safety for thank you. In terms of, you said when you guys were quite small, you were getting some pretty decent-sized enterprise customers, Coles, that sort of thing. What were you guys doing in that tiny little management thing to actually get massive clients? That's inspiration, right?
Yeah. All we did was provide a simple enough and elegant enough solution and benefited from it being visible on the app marketplace. So having that digital marketplace that was available to anyone, anywhere in the world, luckily it was just discoverable enough that a guy in Coles picked it up And so, oh, this is exactly what I was hoping. Does exactly what I was hoping it would do. So, you know, uniquely doing something very simple very well, and the lack of competition in the marketplace at that time seemed to have been enough for us. If we did the same thing today in a more mature market, I don't know how we would have done it. We would have had to do things that don't scale. So say this training thing that I've been working with, that's a different story, right? We floated that on the App Store and no one downloads it, except maybe other SafetyCulture customers who looked at the other apps by SafetyCulture and then start using it. And we can have conversations with people based on the activity they're doing. But yeah, I think we were a combination of a simple tool done well and visible enough on the App Store that it was discoverable. And then we were all doing the customer support as well, right? We were answering the phones, and so there was a very personal approach to every call that came in, every support inquiry, and so we made every post a winner.
Anyone else from the crowd?
Hey Blake, Nick here. Thanks for the talk, it was really enjoyable. Kind of a question in terms of when we're talking about as you got funding, the scalability and how you had to mature into it. I guess I'm sort of curious as to what sort of self-reflective processes internally did you go through and how that changed and basically how you kind of evolved as you continue to get more funding and scale.
Yep, good question. Probably a bunch of areas that come to mind straight away. One is with setting people up to win. You know, I touched on it briefly, but actually giving people an onboarding experience, actually giving them a clear expectation of what the next 6 months is likely to be like and how we can support them, what we expect of them, those sorts of things. That was something we had to grow into because we really weren't doing the right thing by people. I think people suffered for it as a result, you know, coming into this fairly chaotic organisation, some swim. But also, in a completely different area, you actually have to think big enough with cash. You have to, you don't realise that you're stuck in this paradigm. You're thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be great. There's that thing. We're going to go global. It's going to be good. You actually have to quantumly what you were thinking before in terms of the way you reach customers, the way you access them, the kind of scale that you can operate at. And because that investment in you each time is not an investment in what you've done today, it's what you're going to become. So you have to stretch again the thinking around what you're going to become. And so Luke is a freak in the best possible way, and I think he just thinks this way eating breakfast, right? And so this is just like breathing for him. And so growing into how we're going to spend this money, how we're going to go after it, and what risks are we going to take, what sort of failures are we happy with now. And the failures that you then start to become accustomed to become eye-watering sums of money. And that's not a natural thing to grow into. So there's two that I can think of straight off the top of my head.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're just going to go to one from online. We're sitting here in Townsville. Tell us about what did work, or what were some of the benefits of being in Townsville that might have contributed to you guys being able to make this happen.
I think we were one of the first with NBN.
Yeah.
Right. That was.
Okay.
Yeah, they did. Because for a while we were attracting staff to Townsville. Our first 3 or 4 engineers were local kids, but then we were getting people from around the world, and being able to tell them we had high-speed internet was kind of a prerequisite. So that was important. Beyond that, there weren't really a whole lot of unique advantages to this. It was, we enjoyed the underdog status a bit, but it probably served up as many challenges as it did advantages, if I'm honest.
And then I think linked with that another question online, as you pointed out, you and Luke weren't the stereotypical tech entrepreneurs that had been to Stanford, serious thinkers. What was it about your inherent sort of skills or qualities that you had that you think helped succeed in this? And then what are the ramifications for the people out there online, potentially in regional towns or cities in Australia, or the people, what does it mean for them in terms of who you think can be an entrepreneur or build a business?
Yep, great question. None of us had any right to be doing what we're doing, at least qualification-wise. Like, we were grossly underqualified for any of this. All of us still have imposter syndrome. All of us are half expecting someone's going to tap on the shoulder and go, come on, mate. Shut that up. We don't even making this shit up as we go. But that's okay. Everybody's making this shit up as they go along. And like, even people in professional jobs, they're all just doing the best they can. And we knew that. And that kind of underdog status, that like, at no point did we feel inadequate for a lack of a Stanford degree. Like, that didn't fucking matter to us. And we're going to figure it out. We'll find a way. It's just problem solving. Okay, great, that's a problem. What's the next problem? Okay, it's that. Do we know how to solve? No, who does? This guy. Great. How do we solve this? And again, rinse and repeat. And there's nothing in that the lack of qualification is going to stop you doing. Everybody can do that. It's just problem solving.
Now, due to time, I think we'll close there, Blake, I think, on problem solving. Okay. So, I mean, if you can be a problem solver, you can have a crack at things. So please, everybody join me in thanking Blake. Now we're going to very briefly get to hear about what was it and who was it that actually connected Oz industry to SafetyCulture. So, Renee.
It's quite funny looking back at the photos and remembering the time when they were working out. So, for the context of industry, we are part of the Department of Industry, Design and Energy Resources at the Commonwealth level. I've worked for industry for coming up to 11 years, so I feel like I know a lot of businesses around who've not quite been unicorn status, but are well on their way, so it's great. Our region starts in Mackay and goes north and west, so I dealt with all sorts of different strange markets. So when I started with SafetyCulture, I actually had a baby in 2011, took some time off, came back to work 2012, and I think I was a bit of I'm bored, what can I do that's different? You're energized, you've had some time off, came to see the world in a new different way. Before the grants, there was actually a program called the Research and Development Tax Incentive, and I'm assuming that's a long starting. We'll just give it to them anyway. So that is a program that provides tax offset against eligible R&D costs. So before you're making lots of money with your research and development to a product, process, or service, you can claim a tax deduction. So I came back, looking through the list of all the local companies that use this program, came to SafetyCulture and went, who are these people? I've never seen them before. Looked up the website. I don't know if this is hard story, but there was no Townsville address, there was no Townsville phone number, there was, I think, a mobile number, 1-800 number. Nowhere could you tell this is a Townsville company. So, international, global, I get it. Anyway, because I like to know every one of our customers, I contacted Luke, the email that we had on file in our system, said, hey, I'm Renee, I'm a local industry person, keen to get to know you, see if we can help in any other ways. And he invited me out to Bushland and hello. I remember getting there. I am not a dog person. Get out of the car and I hear all the dogs barking and started to freak out. It was interesting looking at the pictures because that's like a tiny dog. So I'm not sure I was scared. But when you're walking through a place and you're like, what am I going to see here? Dogs are at home, we're going to a garage. I'm just not 100% sure what's going on here. But anyway, taking to a big screen on the wall. So, that's pretty fancy. We've got pretty graphs and, numbers. So, that's at this point. So, we talked about what they were doing. But, accelerated commercialisation there could be an option for you. I'm getting in touch with Keith, our super scary commercialisation facilitator, or a different time back then. So, Keith and Luke had a discussion. Because we cover a big region, I remember driving to Cairns for one of the work trips. making it close to Tully in the phone rooms, it's leaving down the road. I'm not sure about this key person, so I don't think he really understands what we're doing. He's not seeming keen on what we're doing. Okay, talking about the ledge, fine. What you really need to do with your business model, that's what people want to know about more than anything. But how are you going to be making money when you're out? I think it's pretty absurd.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So you pay for the premium position, the back-end reporting and data analytics. You really need to sell that story back to people. You know, a couple of years later, they get money. But from my experience, the vision has stayed the same the whole way along. You're about making a difference. You can do your sales. It's about understanding what the end goal is, what was that business model, how are we going to make money, and sure other people come in. But I think they generally stay true to that story. And give it back to the community. So, you know, it's great that SafetyCulture still have a Townsville presence and global, but the roots are here. Great to see Blake and Luke and the rest of the team still giving back in their time.
Fantastic. And look, I think it's obviously nice that we do have local people like Renee making the kind of grants that Oz industry make available to business. I think it's obviously being prepared to go out and brave the dogs and help get those precious government dollars into the hands of people that are building business. That is quite a special success story. So we'll look forward to more of that happening.
Yeah.
I
forgot to say, we've got an EP. Donna Patani, Donna's based in Cairns, so yeah, the new and improved. We're both wearing shirts. We're going to take over the world. So we've got someone now from Ground Zero to come and talk to you and tell you, what you need to know to get to that next level.
Fantastic, Renee. Thanks a lot. Thanks for sponsoring this event. Again, I'd like to thank Safe. Thanks again to JC Connect and Pete for the screening, as well as the interview that went on today. JC Connect is doing some really fantastic things in terms of connecting universities into innovators. So please do check out that interview, check out their website, do some great events themselves. Thanks to Kelly from Support Local Business. I particularly enjoyed the ad for this event with Kelly being very hilarious on it. And again, a big thank you to Blake for sharing that story and hopefully inspiring. So thank you for coming. Thanks for